Hey, good evening to you. I just wanted to make a brief video to introduce myself and talk about the class a bit, and hopefully you will like this class. This semester, I actually have five different sections of this technical communication. That's just the way that it worked out because I have ENG 162 WA and WB online, and then I have it on a Tuesday, Thursday in an in-class section, and then I have it on a Monday night. So if anyone runs into a difficulty and might need to transfer to one course or the other, there's some flexibility there, especially with the night course because I don't even think that one's even full. So it's a Monday night course. So anyhow, for 99% of the people, you'll be fine. But if you ever run into a situation where your work schedule changes or whatnot, go ahead and let me know. I also have like a late start technical communication class. It starts in September. So anyhow, I just wanted to introduce myself and I wanted to talk about our book. This Technical Communication, A Practical Approach, the 8th edition, obviously came out for the fall semester. And if you want to buy it at the bookstore, it's probably about $120. But you also get an electronic version of the book with it. There's like a card with it. It's called My Tech Com Lab. And what you can do is you can create a login and a password, and you can start using it as if you wanted to use the book electronically, you can. So you could access it from your laptop or your desktop. If you wanted to even buy just the card itself and not get the book, you could obviously do that. And then you wouldn't have to worry about the book at the end of the semester. This book, I've used this for more than 15 years, and I really, really like it. It's 17 chapters. Maybe it was 14 or 15 some years back. But it has enough information for a semester, but it's not too much information. It's very easy to follow, and the examples and illustrations are first rate. Now, if you have this book, the Brief Penguin Handbook from College Writing, this is really a good one to keep and to use for this class or for other situations. If you're with the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or, in one of your church groups or Red Cross or whatnot, it's good to have a handbook around the house or in the office. This one is one that I really like, which is called the Prentice Hall Reference Guide for Professional Writing. It's written by the same company, actually. These two are both Prentice Hall publications. If you wanted to actually buy a copy of this, you could get it on Amazon.com or Half.com, and you can get it very, very inexpensively, probably $10 or so. But it's a nice book to have around your office. There's another book that many people have. It's called HOW, which is the Handbook for Office Workers. It's really sort of a great source, but it's for people who work in an office and are managers or whatever. But it's a good reference book to have, so I recommend that one if you'd ever be interested. But any of these handbooks is fine. This book is one that my son Mike used for a class that he took. It's called the Associated Press Style Book, okay? And it was a journalism writing class, but you have to follow certain style guidelines. And the only reason why I mention that is in certain classes or for certain companies, they're going to have a style guideline. Even if you go into Google and you type NASA style guidelines, that's the the Space Association, aerospace, for the U.S. government, they have guidelines as far as how they want their documents to be written and all that. My sister Mary and my brother Steve at one time both worked for the CIA. My sister Mary actually spent her whole career with them. They have a style guideline. For example, they want third world, a capital T and a capital W. When you have to write a report, they want you to lead off a certain way. They want you to have 4 sentences in the introduction. And so they have certain points that they like to see you do, and they have a certain format. There was a former FBI agent that came to WCCC a couple years back and spoke, and that's what he talked about. The FBI, they write all their documents in narrative format. So, if they're interviewing someone, they basically say, I spoke to Michael Ritzik on August 17, 2012, at 4 o'clock p.m. in his office, and they'll go down through and just basically comment on what I had to say, what I knew, and that sort of information. So they obviously follow a certain style. Now, if you work with a company such as Caterpillar, I have some students that work for them. They're a heavy equipment company. I have a student that works for Seagate Technologies. They're like hard drive company. They often have templates. So if you have to do a memo, a letter, a report, certain types of documents, an incident report, an accident report, they have many of those available as templates. You just have to fill in the information. So that's very, very useful. But again, remember, if there are certain style guidelines or certain criteria to follow, you want to make sure to remember to follow what is suggested. The other point to remember is this, okay? If you're working with a group of people on a project and there's multiple people doing that same project, you want to make sure that you have some basic style guidelines, like what types of headings are you going to use? How long are your paragraphs going to be? Even word choice that you're going to be using. So, for example, I did a document and I couldn't use the word semester. I'd use the word term to make it more general. So just those types of things to make sure that you have consistency throughout the document, from the beginning to the end. So that's what style is. Style is not only the writing, but the headings, the way the subheadings, even how you break it down, how you use bullets, your paragraph length. All of those elements go into style. So, I just wanted to point that out to you. The one website that I most highly recommend for this class is the owl.english.purdue.edu. And that is a really good website to use because it has information on technical writing, on grammar, punctuation, but even how to create a resume. It covers a whole wide array of areas. I really like that one. I also am very fond of the site called refdesk.com, which is a site that has information, reference information, so, facts and statistics, all sorts of information that you might find, very, very useful. And Kathleen Keefe, our reference librarian, always likes bartleby.com, and that's BRATLEBY.com, and the same sort of thing. And she also likes that firstgov.gov, good sorts of information to be used. For this class, though, you're not going to have to use our WCCC library site as much, but when you do the consumer report, the places that are very helpful are EBSCOhost and LexisNexis within our library site. So, you might want to consider using those. So I just wanted to mention that to you. Now, if you have your book in front of you and you don't mind, I'd like to just give you a quick snapshot or a quick overview as far as what is available in here, and I'll talk about it. If you want to skip ahead a little bit, this will probably take me about 3 or 4 minutes, but if you don't want to listen to this, then you can skip ahead on this video a little bit once I talk about some of the other parts of this class. Under Chapter 1, under Technical Communication in the Workplace, that chapter used to be, I believe, Chapter 2 or 3. They switched it to the beginning, but it more or less talks about your writing and your speaking. And even in this book, they look at how you have to communicate if you have to speak and write in other countries. You have to use what's called simplified English, because people that are non-native speakers of English, even though they do speak English, some of our terms, some of our idioms, like surfing the net, or flaming somebody, on the internet or through email, they wouldn't know those terms. They wouldn't be familiar with them. So, you have to use simplified, basic language. As a comment to you, a couple of years ago, I had problems with my Vonage phone, and I had to call Vonage, and I believe they're in India. And the person got confused at the very beginning of the call. He thought I had a Cisco router, and I actually had a Vonage router. And there was something else that he got confused on. So instead of having a 10 to 15 minute conversation, it took us about 4 calls over about 4 hours to finally get my router to sync up. So you have those experiences at times, and obviously they're not very pleasant. Under process and technical communication, That focuses on your readers. And the thing that you're going to notice from this class is that you will write different parts of a document in different ways. So, for example, if you have a chance here, let's just go and take a look at chapter 2, because they talk a little bit about different types of readers, such as decision makers, advisors, but you also have technicians. You might have managers. You might have just employees in general. The idea is that sometimes you have to adjust your writing up or down depending on the person or the readers to whom you're writing. So when you write an essay or a research paper, like you would for advanced composition or for, a psychology class, you write the same way the whole time. In technical writing, sometimes you have to adjust up or adjust down depending on who is reading it. So I really wanted to make you aware of that, and I think that's a very, very important point to be aware of. Collaboration in writing in Chapter 3 is one that you covered in college writing, but it talks about tools for collaborating. And really, these days, tools for collaborating is a lot different. In this course, we use the discussion board. But there's also, and by the way, discussion board, it now is in tools. There used to be a link for discussion board. Now they moved into the tools area. But there's also functionality that you can use called a wiki. And what a wiki is, you can actually put visuals into a discussion board type of area, and it's a little bit more dynamic. A wiki is really a Hawaiian term for a knowledge base, okay? And some companies will put up a wiki. And so, for example, I have a student that works at Seagate Hard Drives. It's called Seagate Technologies. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to fit their storage type devices or hard drives into smaller and smaller devices. What do they do? How does it fit in? And so they use a wiki or a knowledge base. Some companies use what's called a blog, and there's like places called the Blog Spot and so on. There's Google Blog. You can even create a blog. A blog is like a web blog. If you wanted to write about something that is of interest to you, such as I like to bicycle, if I wanted to take pictures and I wanted to write about what I did on all my bicycle rides, or some of the main ones, I could have a blog, and I could take pictures, and I could post documents and do all sorts of things. And sometimes people follow these blogs. So sometimes they're just for brainstormings, but sometimes they're used for different types of applications. So that's definitely that's used. And then even other companies have sort of these areas where they pose different topics where they're trying to solve different problems as far as that goes. So if it's a web design company and somebody's having a problem to get the the design of the web page to look right, or something isn't syncing up, they can type that in and they can ask other people for help or ideas. And so that's a way of collaborating. Obviously, also these days you can use GoToMeeting, you can use Skype, which is used pretty common. Sometimes I participate in online types of discussion like WebEx. Cisco has different products. So what I'm just trying to say is the days that you just have regular meetings or you collaborate in person, that isn't as common anymore. More collaboration is done online or in other types of situations. A lot of people today, too, will use Google Docs. And I went to a conference, and this one English department had all of their instructor evaluations, all their key documents available through Google. And so the different secretaries in the department could get them, the dean, other people that needed to get them. So it was a much more convenient. And a friend of mine who works here at the college, he uses that Dropbox.com, and it's a place where you can put your documents in virtually like the cloud. I know Amazon and everyone has them these days, but it's a way, instead of keeping your document on a thumb drive or keeping it on your computer's hard drive, you can store them virtually, and it's a lot easier to do. So, that is a change. So collaboration has definitely changed. Organizing information, that's a key chapter there. There's a good deal of information that they cover that's actually quite helpful. Chapter 5, though, on document design is one of the most critical chapters in this entire book by far. The reason for that is, if you notice on page 124, elements of page design, where they talk about white space, and white space is, the separation between paragraphs that you want to use, how you use list. You can use bulleted lists for up to 5 points. If you have 5 or more points, you can number them, okay? So, but they mentioned that in there, like font style. In-text emphasis is a really, really big component of this course. In documents, you can use bold, you can use italics, you can use underline, you can use yellow highlighting. If you wanted to emphasize a point more, you could use all capital letters. You wouldn't want to make it too many. You could use red font. There's many different techniques that you can use, and that's one of the elements of this class that we'll talk about. Even the exclamation point can be used, as far as that goes. For emphasis, you don't want to overuse it, but these are some of the different techniques to to consider. Under Chapter 6, under correspondence, there is information on letters, memos, and email. But what I also wanted to mention to you is there's more and more correspondence, obviously done through email, but there's other ways of communicating today. Like I mentioned, more companies will collaborate through wikis or blogs or other types of things like that. But it's good to know how to do a basic memo, and it's good how to do basic letters, and of course write email, effectively. Most people don't really think, that you obviously do reports for, safety changes to your company or whatnot. But you can actually do reports. You can do a memo report. You can do a letter report. There's different types of reports that you can do in writing. So that's something to be aware of. You can actually do an email report as far as that goes. Definition and descriptions under Chapter 7 talks about description and definitions, which is some of the main things that you have in college writing. But sometimes in writing, it's really, really critical to fully describe something or, define it. I'm a big bicyclist. It doesn't look like it, but I do bicycle a great deal. And when you buy some of these high-end mountain bikes or road bikes, it's really, really important to describe what the frame is made out of, what the components are, and all those types of factors. Those are really important. If you snow ski, if you snowboard, if you have a pistol, any types of items that you have, the technical specifications or technical information these days is really important. Under process explanations and instruction, Chapter 8, that's probably the most critical chapter in this book, but specifically on pages 223 to page 231, where they talk about using instructions. Please read that over. You will find that helpful. And if you have your book in front of you, I wanted to point something out from that Chapter 8. And this is a really good example that they use, and I refer to this one all the time in class if I can find it. Here it is on page 244 and 245, making travel arrangements. And so they put it first time in paragraph form, and that's okay. But notice how you have making travel arrangements, and then you have you have headings, and then you have notes, and then bulleted points. Each of those points starts off with a command like confirm, call, complete, make, place. Really, really helpful. So it tells you an action to do, and it's much more specific and much more accurate. I had a student in this class that was a chef at Velazzi's, and that's what he said. He said that sometimes his assistant chefs or sous chefs were not making the recipes correctly, so he had to use really accurate descriptions and descriptive writing as far as how the recipe should be done, and then how the food should be presented on the plate. That also is important. So anyhow, there's that chapter. Technical research of Chapter 9, they added a section actually under conducting primary research, and on 271 and so on, they talk about quantitative research and qualitative research. So check that out, but they also talk about the MLA style documentation, the APA style documentation a little bit there. And they also have a section on that in the back of the handbook. Under formatting and proposals, formatting reports and proposals, that's actually pretty useful. Proposals is something as a starting point for something. It's not a finishing point. So we're going to do proposals for our consumer report and also for our written instructions. And just remember that if you say, I'm considering for your consumer report, I'm considering 3 different SUVs, 3 medium-sized off-road SUVs, and these are the 3 that I am considering. And then, these are the points of criteria that I'm going to be using and so on. Now, when you get into your research a little bit, you actually find, the Jeep is just too rough of a ride. I just don't like a Jeep Wrangler. It's not going to really suit me. It won't fit my dogs. So you can always say, you know what, I'm going to change from the Jeep Wrangler, and I'm going to include the Toyota FJ Cruiser or CJ Cruiser or whatever that Toyota is, that sort of rugged off-road type of vehicle. But you can always do that. Again, remember, a proposal is just a starting point. A report is when you wrote the proposal and you wrote the report and you finished it off. So just keep that in mind. So you will do different types of reports throughout your career. I participated in a number of them here at WCCC. I'm involved with Middle States currently, and Middle States is our reaccreditation. And I am co-chairing Standard 1 and Standard 6 with Sylvia Detter from Con Ed. And I believe we have 12 or 15 standards. So there's, 6 or 8 subgroups, and they all contribute to this report. And then somebody actually writes a report, and then somebody edits and formats it. So you can see what an involved process it is when you have a longer formal report. Now, again, most reports, like I said, you can do a memo report, you can do a letter report, or you can do an email report. Those can be very, very short and really, compact as far as that goes. Because I'm the chair of cultural programming at WCCC, and we're having this political scientist, Dr. Terry Madonna, come in for the fall semester, and so I had to write like a 1-page proposal saying who he is, how much it would cost, what his topic is going to be, and so on. So that's basically, it was just like a brief report to let the other committee members, know what was going on. Chapter 11, Reports for Information Analysis. That's a new chapter, and so you might want to check that out. But they talk about recommendation reports, feasibility studies, equipment evaluations, which is one that you do oftentimes, especially if you own a business or if your company wants you to look at different types of equipment and make comparisons and choose one. And, of course, problem analysis. Proposals and white papers is one they actually just added this time. And again, I talked about proposals. A white paper is something you work on typically with a bigger group of people, and it's sort of a position type paper. Graphics is self-explanatory in 13. Web pages and web writing is under 14, is something they had last time. They did add a section there on guidelines for writing web content, which is on 542. And they also have in that chapter, there's a web design form that you can fill out to help you design your web page. Presentations is 15, like if you have a speech class, same kind of chapter. The job search is 16 as far as letters of application, thank you letters, resumes, portfolios. And then style and technical writing is at the end. There's a handbook under Appendix A on 658. And that also has, actually they added a section this time on page, in that particular section, on using MLA and APA documentation. They actually added more content and more information to it. I'm not going to look through this right now and find it, but I know it's in the very back there because I happen to look in that section. So I wanted to cover what's in this book and give you an idea of what we're going to be doing in this class. The last item that I wanted to speak about a little bit tonight here is some of the main assignments for this class. And I know that I am going a bit longer, but it doesn't hurt. And I have the time tonight, and it's very quiet here. Usually the phone's ringing off the hook, but today is a good evening. A couple of the main assignments that we're going to be doing is I'm going to have you do a summary assignment where you find an article of 3 to 5 pages. and you present the information in 3 different ways, like in a visual type of format, a longer summary of about 1,000 words, and a shorter summary of about 300 words. If your longer summary is 1,000 words, then your shorter summary will be 300 words, approximately. It's presenting the same information in 3 different ways, and sometimes you need to do that in the workplace. We also do written instructions, and they're 3 to 5 pages. Many of them are longer. You're going to need at least 5 visuals. But again, explaining something you're familiar with doing and you have experience in doing, something that you like to do. If you like to fish or hunt, or if you're good at cooking or baking or sewing, or any types of arts and crafts project, fixing a toilet, auto detailing, anything that you want to get into, I'm definitely open to it. So, and then the last big item that we do is the consumer report, and that is that you have to look at 3 different brands of a product that costs more than $100. You have to use at least 6 sources. You have to use at least 4 points of criteria. If price is one of your points, then you use 5 points of criteria, and you do research, and basically you get into the document, and you finish it by the end of the semester. If you finish it sooner, you'll get 20 added points. If you finish it in early November, if you finish it a little bit later, you'll get 10. But if you want to get moving on it, you definitely can, do it. And I've had people that do all sorts of different topics. So that is where we are, and hopefully this gives you an idea as far as what this class is about. When you send me bigger documents, what I want you to do with any types of documents for this class, you can email them to me at ritzigm@wccc.edu. When you send me an email, put your first and last name, and then put the class, so like ENG 162WA, or whatever section you're in, and then the name of the assignment. When you send me an assignment, I want you to write, "Dear Mr. Ritzig, comma," and then in the first paragraph, I want you to tell me something about what you are sending. So I am sending the evaluation of customer service that is due for Friday, September the 7th. And then in the second paragraph, or in the second sentence, just basically tell me something about what you're sending. I worked at Ruby Tuesdays as a server. I enjoyed the experience. I thought it was excellent. Or I worked at this particular job and I did not enjoy it, or whatnot. Or, Mr. Ritzig, pay attention to this part of my writing. If you notice that I try to put more emphasis on my transition words, and it helps me to be able to comment more specifically on what you were doing. At the very end, say, "Please respond by," and give me a week to respond. So if the document was sent on Friday, September 7th, tell me to respond by Friday, September the 14th. So give me a week to respond, sign "thank you" or "sincerely," and that's fine. But that's what you really want to do. You want to start practicing email etiquette so that you give me an inclination about what you're sending and that sort of thing. If you send something without a subject line, that's a problem. But if you really want me to really read something quickly, or if you have an emergency, then in Outlook you can click the exclamation point, and anyhow, that'll let me know that it's a very urgent type of issue. So I think that's all I have, and hopefully, like I said, this will start the class off, and it'll give you an idea. I'm not going to make these YouTube videos all the time, but I just had some time tonight, and I thought I would do it. So that's it. Thanks.